Okay, next up, we're going to the moon. Ooh, this is a good contract. So these contracts are a little bit randomized. Sometimes this one will say just fly by the mun. Sometimes it'll say fly by and return. Sometimes it'll say this one, which is fly by the mun, get science, and return. The more parameters you have here, the more money you're going to get from it. If you really wanted to, this offer will refresh every 5 days. So you can time warp for 5 days, and then you'll get a different contract offered. And you might get one like this, which is actually pretty much perfect. Okay, so to get to the mun, we need to upgrade the tracking station. You don't have to, but it's very, very useful. And I already did it last flight, so don't have to worry about that. Let's get some more parts. Electrics would be nice for solar panels. I can't get these yet. And then I think we're going to use radio boosters on this one. So we need that radio decoupler now. Yeah, okay, this is fine. Let's save the rest of the science for now. Where's my ship? Okay, there we go. Okay, we're gonna pull off everything below the science package. Just rebuild that part. No new experiments. Oh, we do have the storage unit. Okay, so this thing is mostly just a convenience. What it does is it stores experiments just like the command pod can. But it has a cool feature when you right-click on it. You can just collect all the data from all of your experiments. So you don't have to do that tedious thing where you jump out of the capsule and collect everything and jump back in. Now it's just a couple button clicks. So it's not necessary, but it's convenient. So now we're going to use that bigger fuel tank with the Terrier. And we have solar panels. I'm going to slap 4 on at 90-degree angles to each other. And with that will pretty much guarantee that one of these is always going to be in sunlight. The only time it wouldn't be is if I'm pointing directly towards or away from the sun. So be careful for that situation. Decoupler, move the engine down to the decoupler stage. Once again, we're going to get our 2 minutes of burn time for the swivel. Is it going to be on YouTube? Yeah, I think I will upload this. Or at least edit a little bit for Twitch. Oh, right, so we're going to do radio boosters. Here's one thing about radio boosters. If you're going to have 2x booster symmetry, you want to put them on the north and south sides of your rocket. If you look at the VAB door, that's pointing east. So north and south are this way. And the reason why is because as you launch, you're going to be turning to the east, right? So towards that door. And you don't want those boosters to be in your way when they decouple. If they were on the east and west sides, you're going to be turning into one of them, the one on the east side. So if you put them on the north and south sides, it's going to have a cleaner chance of decoupling without blowing up the rocket. Now I think just the hammers here are going to be enough. Put our fins back at a 45-degree angle like that. Okay, we want to fire the swivel at the same time as the boosters. The swivel has a gimbal, which will give you a lot of extra control, and the SRBs do not. So, thrust weight ratio is 2.6, and that is at sea level. That's a bit high. I'm going to do something that's a little bit controversial. I'm going to turn the thrust limit down. The reason this is controversial is that a higher thrust to weight ratio is actually going to be more efficient in getting to orbit, but it's just harder to fly. I'm going to turn this down just for the sake of making it easier to do on my first try. if you're going for optimum efficiency, you don't ever want to lower these thrust limiters. But 1.7 is pretty good. Now, let's check vacuum DV. Oops, what happened here? Okay, vacuum DV is 5,100. Going from, this might be a good time to show the DV map. Okay, so this is the DV map for Kerbal, for the stock solar system. You can see at the very bottom we have that 3,400 number. That's what it costs to get to low orbit. And then that gray line off to the side to MUN says 860. So it's going to cost about 860 to get a MUN encounter from low Kerbal orbit. Now we're just doing a flyby here. So we're going to need a little bit of fuel beyond that encounter to make sure that our reentry back at Kerbal is safe. But we're not going to need a whole lot more than 3,400 plus 860. So that's about 4,260 plus something. So let's say, well, 5,000 is plenty. Right. Okay, next up, this wrench turned orange, which means something about my craft is not legal. And there's a part limit, which we're exactly at, that's awesome, and a mass limit. So we're over the mass limit. Save that real quick. To upgrade your mass limit, you need to upgrade the launch pad. So right click there. It's pretty cheap. Yeah, the mass limit comes from the launch pad. The part count comes from the VAB. I do actually have enough money to upgrade this if I wanted to. Or if, if that rocket had a couple extra parts on it, I could do that. Doesn't matter. Okay, check the crew assignment. Oh, I just remembered something. Good thing I checked the crew assignment. There's one new thing, relatively new, in... yeah, it's here. Darn it. Okay, if I hadn't gotten stability, I could have built the rocket a little bit differently so I didn't need those radial decouplers. And I could have gotten this EVA kit. Dang it. Well, that's only 15 more science points. Hey, Berna. Here's another little trick. So a lot of people recommend driving a rover around KSC and collecting all the science from the different buildings, because each building is a different biome for science purposes. In my opinion, that's really tedious and dumb, and not dumb. It's really tedious and boring for me. But it's a handy trick to know if you do find yourself in a situation where you just need a few more science points to unlock something important. And I don't drive a rover around. What I'll do is I'll just stick stuff on the runway, because I don't have any science for the runway yet. So all of this is going to be new science. Right. And hopefully this is at least 15 points. I think it probably should be. $7.5, 3, crew report, pressure, temperature, EVA. Whoops. Yeah, okay. There's another rookie mistake. I put something over the hatch and I couldn't EVA. But I think I have enough. You can use rockets to get to the biomes. Yeah. You can do it. If it's worth doing if you just need a couple more points, but it's really not necessary if you don't, unless you think it's fun. If you think it's fun, go for it. I don't think it's fun. Okay, so now we can get this thing. Okay, so Here is something really weird. If you click the cargo button here, you can get to the loadout of the inventory slots in your rocket. So Jeb has 2 inventory slots, the command pod has 1. Do not use the command pod's inventory slot. There's a bug where it doesn't get persisted, and you'll overwrite things. It's bad. There's a mod out there that actually fixes the bug called KSP Community Fixes. But I am a bone stock install right now, and I wanted to call that out because people get screwed up by it. To work around it, just use Jeb's inventory. So we're going to take that experiment kit and we're going to replace his parachute. Hopefully we won't need the parachute. We will need his jetpack. We don't need his parachute. Okay. I think we're good to go. I'm going to check the rocket stats one more time. So takeoff thrust to weight ratio is 1.7. That's great. Vacuum GV 5100, also great. We're good to go. What's the most complex thing to learn in KSP? I would like the 2 hardest things in the game. Well, I guess 3. Rendezvous and docking. Technically, those are 2 different things. But yeah, that series of things. And then building a rocket that can return from Eve are probably the 3 hardest things. Gravity assist? Okay, yeah, gravity assists are tricky. I just never use them because it's not necessary. And then Berna asked, can you reuse the science kit? You can't. You only need 1 of them. Okay. So T, Z, space. And this rocket has a higher thrust to weight ratio, so we're going to begin our turn just a little bit earlier, very gradually. And once you got that turn started, you can click the prograde button over here, which Jeb has because he's now a level 1 pilot. So now we can have him just lock to prograde or retrograde. And I'm just going to kind of watch my altitude and the turn, and then I can kind of nudge it to the right if I want it to go a little bit faster, or left if it's going too fast. Okay, boosters are almost out. When you're using radial boosters, you want to, yeah, my turn was not fast enough. When you're using radial boosters like that, you want to hold exactly prograde when you're decoupling, and that will really reduce the chances of boosters hitting your ship. Okay, click maneuver mode down here so we can see the apoapsis. Looking good. Yeah, so that ascent was pretty inefficient, but it's not going to matter. When AP is 80 kilometers, we're going to hit X to kill the engine and time warp our way up to orbit. So last time I used the vertical speed to kind of control my circularization burn. This time I'll show it from map mode. So if you're doing this in map mode, you basically want to keep your ship right on AP. And if AP starts to go behind you, then you need to pitch up into the blue part of the nav ball. And if it starts to go too far ahead of you, you pitch back down, or throttle down as well. Here's one little trick. To get off of the prograde hold, because I'm going to want to tilt my rocket slightly, I can tap F, and that'll reset me back to stability assist. Okay, throttling up. So AP is going behind me, so I'm going to tip up just a little bit, and then I'll bring it back down. Just kind of juggle left and right. All right, we need a stage. Back in that mode. So the Terry engine has obviously a lot lower thrust than the swivel, so this burn is going to take a little bit longer. But it's very, very efficient. To land on the moon? Yeah, I might. Definitely at least orbit, but I'm not going to do that this flight. Okay, and then as we're getting close to circular, you can throttle down to make these adjustments a little bit easier. And as soon as periapsis and apoapsis flip places, you hit X to kill the engine. It's pretty good. 84 by 81. All right. Now, we have one new piece of science we can do. Remember our little science kit? Make sure it's still in there. Yeah, good. So you have to let go. Press space to let go and then R to turn on your jetpack. You'll start to drift away here. The WASD keys will move you left, right, forward, and back relative to the camera. And then shift and control go up and down. So this is fun. If you turn off your RCS and SAS, and then we run the EVA science, it's a lesson in conservation of momentum. Okay, we turn on RCS and SAS again, and Jeb will stabilize himself. And then we just need to slowly get back to the ship. One of the keys about flying with the jetpack is you never want to go too fast. You can press U for the headlights if you need to see better. Okay, and board. Cool. Okay, so I haven't unlocked maneuver nodes yet, and I don't like teaching new players how to use maneuver nodes because they just complicate things. There's a really easy way to get to the MUN, and that is called the MUN rise trick. Essentially, when you're in flight and you see the MUN rise over the horizon, so like right when you're about here, that's when you want to start your burn. So I'm kind of lining it up here, figuring out where that should be. We're going to time warp until we're over at that spot. It's honestly using what I'm about to show you. It is trivial to get a MUN encounter. Like maneuver nodes just complicate things. Okay, so pretty soon we're going to see the MUN rise over the horizon here. And we want to point prograde, so we can use Jeb's prograde hold there. And there it is. Okay, and now we start our burn. It's that easy. So you want to watch this in map mode. The apoapsis here is going to start stretching out away from Kerbal, and it's going to end up over here somewhere. And the reason we time this the way we do is that it's going to take us time to get up to apoapsis, and in that time, the MUN also moves in its orbit here. And if we do it right, we're going to meet it at that spot right over there. So as this gets higher and higher, it's going to start moving faster and faster and faster. And it's going to be easier to control this if we start throttling down. So as soon as you see an encounter, the colors are going to change and the lines are going to get all wacky. You can just press X. Like that. Boom. That's a flyby. Now, this would be enough to satisfy the contract, but we're going to try and do a little bit better. Because the MUN, just like Kerbal, has near space and high space, and we can do science from both areas. Now, these burns, to adjust the periapsis here, we need to get the periapsis closer to the MUN. a very, very small change in my velocity at this point is going to make a huge difference in where that periapsis is. So I need a lot of precision. And the way I do that is you right click on your engine and you turn this thrust limiter way down here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the boundary is 60 kilometers. It's like 50 or 60. Okay, I'm going to show a couple things in sequence and problems that might come up and what's going to happen. So I'm going to start my prograde burn again. I'll right click that to keep the number visible. And we're going to try and get it under 60 kilometers. So even though I turn my thrust limiter way down and I'm using very low throttle, this is actually moving pretty fast. Okay, it's 46. So that's going to be low space. So we're going to do science up here when we're high above the MUN, and then down here when we're very close to the MUN, and it's going to get a ton of science points. Now there's a problem here, and you guys probably know what it is. This is a gravity assist. No, it's actually not too bad. A lot of the times if you do this, the MUN's gravity, so this purple line here is my orbit after I pass the MUN. And you can see how it's a lot bigger than my original orbit. And that's because the MUN is giving me a slingshot to go to an even higher orbit. Often, if you do this, the MUN is going to throw you out of the system entirely. So it'll eject you from Kerbin. This one doesn't. It's not too bad. I could keep it like this, but what I'm going to do is show you how to do a free return, or close to a free return. If you continue burning in that same direction, prograde, the periapsis is going to go under the MUN, through the MUN, and then it's going to come out on the other side. And again, we want to stop it before it gets up to 60. Okay, 29. Cool. Yeah, in this case, it's really not much different. In some cases, it'll make a big difference. That must just be the timing of when I did my transfer burn. In any case, when you go around the front side of the MUN, the gravity assist will try to keep you in the Kerbin system. So that's how you fix that if you are getting a gravity assist out of the system. And again, I have so much fuel left that I would have been able to fix either case. It doesn't really matter. If you do the thrust limiter trick, always remember to turn the thrust limiter back up. You'll be very surprised later when your engine doesn't work the way you think it should. Okay, one more thing before we get to the MUN. We're now over 250 kilometers, and we haven't done the EVA science from this region of space yet. So we'll do that. He's got like an infinite number of these wing nuts, I guess. I don't know. Okay, now we're good to go. So you can use fairly high time warp here. The game will knock the time warp back down to 50 when you're about to cross the SOI boundary, the sphere of influence. But if you use really high time warp, sometimes it's too late. So you have to be a little bit careful. So we're leaving Kerbin and arriving at MUN. So as soon as we enter the MUN's sphere of influence, yeah, so you see the time warp went back down and then the nav ball changed. So now I'm in MUN space. I'm going to kill time warp the rest of the way and do a round of science. Crew report and our EVA report. And our EVA science again. Works exactly the same way as it does in Kerbin space, but you know, we gotta do it for science. Okay. Now I'm not going to do the Science Junior because we want to do that we can only run it once, and we want to do that in the most valuable place we can, which is low space around Mun. Now here's where the science box comes in handy. I could have gone and collected all of the data from all those experiments while I was on EVA, but I can just click this button instead. And now these are ready to run again. It also took the data out of the mystery view. I can even right-click that. Okay. All right. Oh, here's another tip. So I had focused the camera on the Mun before, or if you double-click on a planet, it'll change your camera focus. The backtick key, it's also on the tilde key, is how you focus back on your ship. That's something that's very hard to find in the game documentation. Okay, we can time warp down to, let's try 60 kilometers and do some science. Now, make sure you don't time warp too far here because it's not going to slow down for you. It's very easy to miss this altitude because you're not going to be close to the Mun for very long. Okay, we're under 60. Crew report. It says space near the Mun. Okay, good. So now we're going to do the materials bay. That's worth 75. That's why we kept it for so long. Did I do crew report? Yes. And then you guessed it, EVA report and EVA science. Now remember the jetpack actually refills itself every time you jump into the capsule. So you don't, as long as you're not going too far away, you don't really have to worry about running out of fuel here. And then just like Kerbal, if you really, really want to maximize the science, you can EVA report over different biomes. But I'm not going to bother. Okay. Oh, one last thing. We're going to collect this data. It'll be safer up there. And remember, we have to collect the data from the Science Junior because that's going to get decoupled. All right. We're back in Kerbal orbit. And we need to get the periapsis down into the atmosphere. So we need to warp all the way up here to apoapsis. And we can almost go to Minmus. And the timing on this doesn't have to be very precise. You just have to be close to apoapsis. Turn on SAS again, point retrograde. And then slowly burn until the periapsis goes down to 30K again. Okay. Maybe a little faster. Okay, 25 should still be fine. If you do go too far, it's no big deal. Just hit prograde and go the other way. And then again, if you need the extra precision, you can turn down the thrust limiter on the engine. Now with time warp. Oh. Okay. This is one of the most frustrating bugs in the game. It's supposed to kill time warp when you enter the atmosphere, but you're going so fast that the game never notices that you're ever in the atmosphere and you just go right through it. In this case, I'm very lucky I didn't explode. And I can just go around one more time. Once you have the mission control upgrade, you will be able to left click on your orbit and do warp to here, which is generally safer than doing what I'm doing right now. But I don't have that upgrade yet. Okay. So we're already on retrograde hold. And then remember, you want to click here to switch to surface mode, stage off the engine and fuel tanks, and we're done. That was close. Might have been a good idea to stage the engine slightly outside the atmosphere. Reduce the chance of a collision like that. You don't want to stage when you're super far away from Kerbin, because that will change it'll impart a little bit of force on your capsule. It'll change your trajectory slightly. But yeah, doing it at like maybe 100 to 200 kilometers is probably a good idea. You can click this button up here to switch your altimeter to surface mode. It'll just tell you, give you a better idea of when you're going to hit the ground. I think this is the first time I've landed on land. Ah, and you know what? Since it is the first time I've landed on land, we can do more science. Now here's a fun one. Do the EVA report, let go, and our EVA science. Hop back in and recover. $506 science earned. Not bad for your 4th flight.